Perhaps your body has been whispering to you. A tightening belt, lab results edged in red, a doctor's quiet mention of metabolic syndrome. It sounds technical, distant, yet it lives in your daily fatigue, your cloudy mind after meals, your racing heart at night. Today, guided by Michael Pollan's In Defense of Food, we will gently open this story, how the way we eat may be pushing our bodies toward danger, and how simple, ancient foods can begin to guide us back. Pollan describes something many of us already sense. The Western diet is like a quiet trap. Highly processed foods, refined grains, added sugars, and industrial oils surround us at every corner store. Metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, blood sugar, belly fat, abnormal cholesterol often blooms in this soil. It is less a personal failure than a predictable result of a food environment designed for profit, not for health. Understanding this is the first step in releasing shame. In the last century, something strange happened. Food stopped being food and became a list of nutrients. We were told to chase fiber, avoid fat, fear carbs, count calories. Pollan calls this reductionist view nutritionism. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this flood of fragmented advice can feel like trying to solve a puzzle with pieces from different boxes. Yet your body is not a machine built from isolated parts. It is more like a garden, thriving on whole, living, complex foods. Amid this confusion, Pollan offers a sentence as short as a breath. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants. For a body wrestling with insulin resistance, high blood pressure, or expanding waistline, this may sound almost too simple. Yet simplicity is sometimes wisdom distilled. Each phrase is a doorway, real food instead of edible products. Enough but not excessive, plants as the quiet medicines of daily life. Today, we will walk through these doors together, gently and practically. Metabolic syndrome is not just numbers on a report, it is a slow, hidden fire in the body. Excess belly fat, especially deep visceral fat, releases inflammatory signals. Insulin resistance keeps blood sugar higher than it should be. Arteries stiffen, blood pressure creeps up. Over time, this can raise the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. But a fire can be cooled. Calming this internal flame often begins not with extreme diets, but with steady, real food choices. Pollan draws a sharp line between food and what he calls edible food-like substances. Food is something your great-grandmother would recognize. Vegetables, fruits, grains, beans, nuts, eggs, fish, meat. Edible food-like substances are hyper-processed items with long ingredients lists, more at home in a lab than a kitchen. For a body struggling with metabolic syndrome, these products often mean quick sugar surges, unstable energy, and extra fat storage. Real food asks more of our time, but far less of our health. Or imagine your weekly supermarket as a quiet battlefield. The outer ring, the produce, dairy, eggs, meat, sometimes fresh bread, is where real food lives. The central aisles are lined with highly processed products engineered to be irresistible. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this layout is not neutral. It nudges you toward the very foods that spike blood sugar and raise triglycerides. Learning to shop the perimeter and to walk past the traps in the middle becomes an act of self-defense and self-respect. Ironically, Pollan warns that the more health claims a package shouts, the more suspicious we should become. Low-fat, cholesterol-free, heart-healthy, these slogans often decorate heavily processed foods formulated to fix one number while harming others. A sugary cereal may boast added vitamins. A margarine may lower one lab value, but disturb others. For metabolic syndrome, it is the overall pattern of eating, whole, minimally processed, balanced, that matters more than any single bold promise on a box. Added sugar hides in surprising places. Sauces, breads, yogurts, drinks. For a body with metabolic syndrome, this is like quietly pouring fuel on that internal fire. Frequent sugar spikes can push the pancreas to work overtime, deepen insulin resistance, and encourage fat storage around the waist. Pollan does not demonize sweetness itself. Fruits and occasional treats have a place, but he invites us to shift from industrial sweets to natural ones, eaten with awareness. not constant automatic habit. White bread, pastries, many breakfast cereals, white rice. These refined grains enter the bloodstream almost as quickly as sugar. The bran and germ, rich in fiber and nutrients, have been stripped away. For someone with metabolic syndrome, this is like riding a roller coaster. Rapid spikes of blood sugar followed by crashes that leave you tired, hungry, and craving more. Whole grains digest more slowly, offering steadier energy. They are less like fireworks and more like a candle's steady flame. For years, we were told all fat was the enemy. Yet, when the food industry removed fat, it often replaced it with sugar and refined starches, fuel for metabolic syndrome. Pollan reminds us that traditional diets rich in natural fats, like olive oil, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish, have long supported heart health. The trouble lies more with industrial trans fats and excessive omega-6 seed oils. Think less in terms of low fat and more in terms of real fat in moderation from whole foods. Pollan traveled through time and across cultures through their plates. Traditional diets, Mediterranean, Okinawan, many indigenous cuisines, may look different, but they share patterns, mostly plants, minimally processed foods, healthy fats, fermentation, and modest portions. These patterns are associated with lower rates of heart disease and diabetes than the Western diet. For metabolic syndrome, this is hopeful news. The path forward is not an exotic superfood, but rejoining the long human story of simple, real meals. Imagine your plate as a small garden. Half of it can be a colorful field of vegetables and fruits, fibers, vitamins, and protective compounds known as phytonutrients. These plant chemicals help lower inflammation and support blood vessels, crucial in metabolic syndrome. A quarter of the plate can be whole grains or starchy vegetables, another quarter protein from beans, fish, or lean meats. When you look down and see a garden instead of a beige landscape, your body often feels the difference. Fiber is the quiet friend often missing from the Western diet. It slows the absorption of sugar, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and helps us feel satisfied. Whole fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and intact grains are its richest sources. For metabolic syndrome, fiber is like a gentle brake on the body's roller coaster, smoothing blood sugar peaks and supporting cholesterol balance. Rather than counting grams, Pollan would invite you to count plants. More colors, more textures, more life on the plate. Ultra-processed meals are fast, cheap, and everywhere. They often combine refined starch, unhealthy fats, added sugars, and salt in precisely engineered ratios that keep us reaching for more. For someone with metabolic syndrome, a day of such meals can mean multiple sugar spikes, heavy loads of calories, and little true nourishment. Pollan would not shame a single burger or frozen dinner. But when most meals come from boxes and drive-through windows, the body quietly pays a long, painful mortgage. Over decades, normal portions have quietly grown, plates expanded, cups stretched taller, and we followed without noticing. Pollan suggests reconnecting with older, smaller ideas of enough. For metabolic syndrome, constant overeating burdens insulin and blood lipids, even when food quality improves. A practical shift: use smaller plates and bowls, serve food away from the table, pause halfway through a meal to ask, "Am I still hungry or just used to finishing?" Your body often whispers the answer if you listen. In a world of constant snacking and screens, many of us have lost the rhythm of true hunger and satiety. Metabolic syndrome often grows in this soil of mindless eating. Pollan invites us to relearn our body's signals, to wait for a gentle, hollow feeling before meals, and to stop when satisfied rather than stuffed. This is not punishment, but respect, like listening for the breath between two notes in music. Your body keeps speaking. This is your invitation to begin listening again. Fast food is not just a cuisine, it is a speed. When we eat quickly, the gut and brain have little time to communicate, and the hormones that signal fullness arrive late. For metabolic syndrome, this can mean larger meals and more strain on blood sugar and triglycerides. Pollan gently suggests reclaiming slowness, sitting down, putting away devices, chewing until textures truly change. A 20-minute meal instead of a 5-minute refueling can over months and years, quietly shift the trajectory of health. Pollan insists to reclaim our health, we must reclaim our kitchens. Cooking is not merely a chore, it is a form of gentle medicine for metabolic syndrome. When you cook, you naturally control sugar, salt, and fats. You see and touch your ingredients. A simple pot of beans, roasted vegetables, a pan of oats. These are quiet acts of defiance against a system that profits from your illness. Each time you light a stove, you are, in a small way, lighting a path back home to your body. Pollan offers a playful rule. If it came from a plant, eat it. If it was made in a plant, don't. This simple phrase can guide choices for metabolic syndrome. Ingredients that once grew, leafy greens, roots, fruits, grains, beans, carry complex nutrients, fibers, and plant chemicals that our bodies recognize. Industrial products from factories carry long labels, deceptive flavors, and often damaging metabolic effects. When in doubt, ask, did this grow or was it assembled? Where we buy food shapes what we buy. Pollan encourages us to favor farmers' markets, local produce, and seasonal items when possible. These foods are often fresher, with higher nutrient content and fewer additives. For metabolic syndrome, replacing processed snacks with crisp apples, leafy greens, beans, and simple grains can be a quiet revolution. When you talk to a farmer or choose a crooked carrot from a stall, you are also choosing a story, one where health, soil, and community remain connected. Pollan suggests an easy filter. Favor packaged foods with 5 ingredients or fewer, all recognizable. For metabolic syndrome, this trims away many ultra-processed traps. A can of beans with beans, water, salt tells a different story than one with a paragraph of stabilizers and sweeteners. When you flip a package, you are reading not just words, but the likely future of your blood sugar, blood pressure, and waistline. Let short, simple labels become a quiet ally in your healing. Many products wear a health halo: gluten-free cookies, low-fat muffins, organic chips. Pollan reminds us that a junk food with one virtuous label is still largely junk. For metabolic syndrome, it matters less whether sugar is organic and more whether there's too much of it. A whole orange and a glass of natural orange juice hit your body differently. The fruit arrives with fiber and chewing. The juice rushes like a wave. Learning to see beyond halos protects both your wallet and your health. Mostly plants does not mean you must become vegan overnight. Pollan speaks of proportion, not perfection. For metabolic syndrome, a plate where vegetables, beans, and whole grains gently crowd out refined carbs and processed meats can make a meaningful difference. Think of plant foods as the orchestra and animal foods as a soloist who appears sometimes, but not in every song. This shift can lighten calorie load, increase fiber, and support better blood pressure and lipid profiles over time. In many traditional cuisines, meat is used as a flavoring rather than the central bulk of the meal. Shavings in a stir-fry, small pieces in a stew. Pollan suggests this older pattern as a model. For metabolic syndrome, making meat smaller and plants larger can reduce saturated fat and calories while increasing fibers that aid blood sugar and cholesterol. Instead of a giant steak with a tiny salad, imagine a generous salad topped with slices of grilled chicken, beans, or fish as gentle accents. One of Pollan's comforting messages is that there is no single perfect human diet. Many different traditional patterns support health. What they share is not a magic ratio of protein to carbs, but an absence of ultra-processed Western products. For those with metabolic syndrome, this means you do not need to chase every new fad. Instead, you can choose a simple, sustainable way of eating real food that fits your culture, your tastes, and your life, and then give it time to work gently. The first meal of the day can steer your metabolism. A sugary pastry and sweet coffee drink can send blood sugar soaring, often followed by a mid-morning crash. Pollan would nudge us toward breakfast our ancestors might recognize: oats topped with nuts and fruit, eggs with greens, plain yogurt with seeds and berries. For metabolic syndrome, such choices offer slower digesting carbs, protein, and healthy fats that keep energy steadier and hunger gentler until midday. Midday, time feels tight, and fast food calls loudly. Yet a burger, fries, and soda can deliver a heavy load of refined carbs, unhealthy fats, and salt, inflaming all aspects of metabolic syndrome. Pollan might suggest a simpler alternative: leftovers from last night's home-cooked dinner, a grain bowl with beans and vegetables, a hearty salad with protein. Packing lunch becomes an act of planning for the self you will be in the afternoon, more focused, less sleepy, gently more alive. Evening meals often grow large, rushed, and eaten late. For metabolic syndrome, heavy dinners close to bedtime can mean prolonged high blood sugar and heartburn. Pollan's real food lens invites simpler, lighter dinners, a plate half filled with vegetables, modest whole grains, and a palm-sized portion of protein. If possible, finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before sleep, giving your body time to digest and your blood sugar time to settle like a lake after wind stills. In the Western pattern, snacks often become a fourth or fifth meal: chips, cookies, sugary drinks. Pollan encourages us to rethink snacks as small bridges between true hunger and the next meal. For metabolic syndrome, choose whole food snacks that do not spike blood sugar quickly, a handful of nuts, a piece of fruit, carrot sticks with hummus, plain yogurt. Ask, will this carry me comfortably or throw me onto another roller coaster? Small choices compound gently over weeks and years. What we drink often matters as much as what we eat. Sugary sodas, sweetened coffees, energy drinks, and even fruit juices deliver sugar without fiber or fullness. For metabolic syndrome, these liquids can rapidly raise blood sugar and add hidden calories. Pollan would gently guide us toward water, unsweetened tea or coffee without sugary syrups. When you trade a daily sugary drink for water, you are quietly easing a burden on your pancreas, your liver, and your blood vessels with every sip. Salt itself is not evil. Our bodies need it. But the Western diet hides large amounts in processed foods, canned soups, snacks, cured meats. For those with metabolic syndrome and high blood pressure, this excess can stiffen arteries and strain the heart. Pollan's emphasis on cooking and whole foods naturally lowers sodium intake. When you season your own meals, you rediscover other flavors: herbs, spices, garlic, lemon. Salt becomes a supporting actor, not the loudest voice. Inside your intestines lives an invisible garden of microbes. Pollan describes how this gut community shapes digestion, immunity, and possibly metabolism. A diet rich in diverse plant fibers feeds beneficial bacteria. A diet heavy in processed foods can starve them. For metabolic syndrome, nurturing this inner garden with vegetables, whole grains, beans, and fermented foods like yogurt or kimchi may help reduce inflammation and improve metabolic signals. You are not eating alone. You are feeding trillions of tiny partners. Before refrigerators, many cultures turned to fermentation. Sauerkraut, yogurt, kimchi, miso. Pollan highlights how these traditional foods preserve not only ingredients, but also living bacteria that can support gut health. For metabolic syndrome, regularly including small amounts of fermented foods may gently help balance the microbiome and improve how the body handles sugar and fats. Think of them as quiet, living allies, a spoonful on the side of a meal, carrying decades of ancestral wisdom into your modern plate. Pollan focuses on food, but our relationship to eating also matters. Chronic stress raises cortisol, which can increase abdominal fat and disturb blood sugar. Core issues in metabolic syndrome. When we eat stressed, rushed, or distracted, digestion can falter. Building small rituals, sitting down, a few deep breaths before a meal, a moment of gratitude, can shift the body from fight or flight into rest and digest. The same plate of food nourishes differently in a calmer nervous system. Although In Defense of Food centers on eating, Pollan acknowledges that our ancestors' diets were paired with more movement. For metabolic syndrome, even modest daily activity, walking after meals, taking stairs, gentle cycling, helps muscles use blood sugar more effectively and supports weight management. Think of movement as inviting food to become energy rather than storage. A 10-15 minute walk after a meal can be a simple, powerful ritual, joining your new way of eating with your body's natural design. Sleep may not be a nutrient, but it behaves like one. Short or poor quality sleep can worsen insulin resistance, increase hunger hormones, and raise blood pressure, deepening metabolic syndrome. A day of Pollan-style real food paired with a night of deep rest is very different from the same diet plus chronic sleep deprivation. Creating a wind-down routine, dimming lights, and keeping late-night snacks minimal help your body reset. Healing is not only what you eat, but how you rest. Food is rarely just personal. It lives in families and cultures. Pollan notes how the Western diet is often shared. Fast food after work, sugary cereals in the morning. For metabolic syndrome, changing habits can feel lonely if everyone else eats differently. Yet, inviting loved ones into small shifts, a new vegetable dish, a shared walk, cooking together once a week, can turn isolation into support. You are not merely changing your plate, you may be quietly reshaping your family's future health. Festivals, birthdays, and cultural dishes are woven into who we are. Pollan does not ask us to abandon celebration, but to reframe it. When everyday eating is grounded in real food, occasional rich meals become less threatening. For metabolic syndrome, rigid extremes can backfire, leading to guilt and rebellion. Instead, approach special foods with full awareness and joy, not secrecy or shame. Savor slowly, then gently return to your usual pattern at the next meal, like a river finding its course again. Metabolic syndrome is defined by lab values and measurements, yet its healing is felt in daily life. Walking upstairs without breathlessness, waking with more clarity, clothes fitting more comfortably. Pollan's message is that changes in what we eat slowly echo in our blood tests, but also in how we inhabit our bodies. Rather than obsessing over every new result, you might ask once a week, how do I feel walking through my day? Numbers matter, but your lived experience matters too. Pollan exposes how the industrial food system turns corn and soy into endless processed products, subsidized and aggressively marketed. This cheap abundance fuels the Western diet, and over time, conditions like metabolic syndrome. Remember, your cravings and struggles are unfolding inside a system designed to push you toward unhealthy choices. Understanding this can replace self-blame with clarity. Each time you choose a whole food instead of a refined product, you are quietly stepping outside that system's script. Bright packages, cartoon mascots, and constant ads are not accidents. They are carefully crafted to override your body's quiet wisdom. For metabolic syndrome, this marketing amplifies cravings for precisely those foods that harm you. Pollan encourages skepticism. Avoid eating foods advertised on television, and remember that your hunger is not a weakness to be exploited. Every time you walk past a tempting display and choose a modest bag of nuts or an apple, you practice gentle resistance and reclaim choice. Pollan's guidance is powerful precisely because it does not demand perfection. For someone living with metabolic syndrome, overwhelming changes can lead to burnout. Instead, start small. Add 1 extra serving of vegetables a day, swap 1 sugary drink for water, cook at home 1 more night per week. Over months, these small steps shift your trajectory like a plane changing course by a few degrees, barely noticed at first, but leading to a very different destination over time. While Pollan offers broad, wise principles, each body is unique, and metabolic syndrome can be complex. Some people take medications for blood pressure, sugar, or cholesterol. Any significant change in diet or activity can affect how these medicines work. Before you make major adjustments, it is important to consult with your physician or a qualified healthcare professional. Their medical knowledge, combined with Pollan's food wisdom and your lived experience, can form a strong, personalized path forward. Imagine 2 parallel days in your life. In the first, breakfast pastry, fast food lunch, sugary snacks, heavy late dinner. In the second, Pollan-inspired choices, oats and fruit, home-packed bean salad, nuts and tea, early vegetable-rich dinner. The difference might not be dramatic in a single day, but across weeks, your pancreas, arteries, and liver can feel the shift. Metabolic syndrome does not appear overnight. and it will not vanish overnight, but every day tips the balance. Pollan invites us to see ourselves not as passive consumers, but as active eaters with values and agency. Metabolic syndrome can make you feel broken or trapped. Yet every time you choose to cook, to read a label, to favor a vegetable over a processed snack, you are expressing a new identity, someone who defends their body with food, not against it. You are not just following rules. You are practicing a new story about who you are and how you deserve to be nourished. Change is never a straight line. There will be late-night snacks, stressful days, vacations where old habits return. Pollan's philosophy leaves room for being human. For metabolic syndrome, what matters most is not whether you ever slip, but whether you return, again and again, to real food, moderate portions, mostly plants. When you have a difficult day, instead of saying, "I failed," you might ask, "What gentle step can I take at my next meal?" Healing is built from thousands of such returns. Let us gather Pollan's guidance into your hands. Eat food, real, minimally processed ingredients your great-grandmother would recognize. Not too much. Listen for enough. Use smaller plates. Slow down. Mostly plants. Let vegetables, fruits, beans, and whole grains fill most of your plate, with modest, high-quality animal foods if you choose. For metabolic syndrome, this pattern gently supports healthier blood sugar, blood pressure, and cholesterol, not through perfection, but through consistent, compassionate practice. As this video ends, your real story begins in your next 24 hours. Pollan's wisdom only changes your body when it changes your plate. So choose one or two actions. Cook one meal at home, add 2 vegetables to your day, replace one sweet drink with water, or take a 10-minute walk after dinner. If you live with metabolic syndrome, please share these plans with your physician or healthcare team and ask for their guidance. You deserve support on this journey. Your body has been speaking through fatigue, lab numbers, and quiet worry. Michael Pollan's In Defense of Food offers you a way to answer with real meals, mindful portions, and mostly plants. If you found hope or clarity here, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who may need it. In the comments, write one small change you will try this week, and remember to discuss your plans with your physician. Let us defend our lives, one meal at a time.